Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into some truly fascinating territory today. We're going to be unpacking a profoundly transformative concept from Stephen Crook's book, The Living Signature of God. Specifically, we're zooming right in on Chapter 7, which boldly reframes, well, the ultimate human anxiety. By the end of this, we're going to map out how shifting our ultimate focus can completely reorder our minds, dramatically lower our daily stress, and radically change how we view the end of life itself.
Okay, let's dive into this. What really drives our endless chase for more? Because we all feel it, right? That exhausting modern rat race. We are constantly chasing. We want more, we want better, we want it faster. We pack our schedules to the absolute brim, we stress over our achievements, and we literally exhaust ourselves trying to wring every single drop out of life. We're constantly told to maximize every moment, but so often it just leaves us feeling incredibly drained and honestly kind of hollow. So why is that? Well, Crook offers a pretty startling answer. He writes, "The fear of death is the most fundamental of all fears, but for the true believer, it is merely the door to the true life." Let that just sink in for a second. Crook is arguing that our exhausting, nonstop chase for worldly success is actually a masking mechanism. Underneath all that frantic rushing, underneath the desperate need to achieve, is this root fear of the end. We're terrified of running out of time, so we try to control and conquer the time we do have, which ironically completely steals our peace. Section 1. The illusion of earthly success. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it contrasts our exhausting reality with the profound peace we're actually craving. Once we realize that this hidden fear of the end is what's driving our daily anxiety, we have to take a really honest look at the tools we're using to try and fix it. And according to the author, the methods the modern world hands us, they are completely missing the mark. On one hand, we try to soothe that inner unrest with temporary dopamine boosts. Maybe it's a fleeting thrill, or curating that picture-perfect social media image, or buying into alternative therapies that really just offer a quick fix. But on the other hand, what we are actually starving for is deep, lasting peace. We constantly compare ourselves to others to prove our worth, and man, that comparison just becomes an absolute assassin to our soul. To make this super concrete, let's look at an anecdote from the text about a woman named Louren. Louren is a highly successful architect. On paper, her life is flawless. We're talking the beautiful home, the incredible career milestones, the whole shebang. But despite having what everyone else is out there chasing, she feels totally trapped. She's caught in this constant loop of comparison with her colleagues and her social media feeds, and it leaves her haunted by this persistent, gnawing inner unrest. All that outward success absolutely could not solve her internal fear. Section 2. Death, a new beginning. And this brilliantly illustrates our next core point. If earthly success and constant distraction can't cure this fundamental fear, what actually can? This is where Crook introduces a really radical pivot. He moves us to see death not as this terrifying deadline, but as a new beginning. But to get there, we have to completely reorder the hierarchy of our lives. He posits that true freedom comes when you put Jesus Christ at the absolute center of your life, the undisputed capital N #1 spot. And we aren't just talking about a casual weekend belief here. Crook means prioritizing this relationship above literally everything else on earth, above your career, above your stuff, and yes, even above your marriage and your children. Because by submitting everything to this one ultimate truth, all your other worldly priorities naturally fall into their proper place. Section 3. Blurring the world's noise. But how does this massive spiritual shift actually feel in our day-to-day lives, right? How does this help us when the mortgage is due or the news is just terrifying? Well, it happens through a profound cognitive restructuring that Crook calls blurring. When you focus entirely on a central, all-encompassing belief in Christ, the 300 different voices screaming for your attention every single day, the worries, the breaking news, the comparisons, they literally start to blur and fade into the background. Your rationality blurs into a much deeper faith, and that creates an incredible amount of space in your heart and your mind. And the explainer text actually ties this right into neuropsychology, which is just fascinating.
When we are living in that rat race, we're constantly firing up the amygdala and the default mode network. These are the parts of your brain associated with fear, primitive survival responses, and just endless rumination. But when we engage in this blurring through intense spiritual focus, we stimulate the prefrontal cortex. This is the area that regulates our emotions. It strengthens the neural pathways associated with peace and love, and activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which literally, physically calms your body down.
The results of this cognitive and spiritual shift is just beautiful. Heaven can be celebrated in your heart right here on earth. Think about that. When the noise blurs, massive earthly issues simply lose their suffocating grip on you. Look, the threat of a looming crisis or the stress of a mortgage, that doesn't disappear from reality, obviously, but it loses its power to control your inner peace. Because your focus is elsewhere, there's simply no more room for the things that used to steal your energy. Section 4. Finding your true freedom. Now, understanding the theory and geeking out on the brain science is great, but how do we actually become the inner engineer of our own minds and find this freedom? The source material gives us a very clear, actionable blueprint here. Step 1. Evaluate priorities. You've got to honestly ask yourself if your daily choices reflect that ultimate number one focus we talked about. Step 2. Filter the noise. You have to actively reduce the stimuli that distract you. Turn down the volume on the world. Step 3. Choose inner silence. Find daily moments to turn your heart away from the chaos and purposely toward peace. And step 4, embrace eternity. Remind yourself daily that this life is a wonderful gift, but it is not the final destination.
So the crucial point is, how do you apply this the minute this explainer is over? You do it by taking practical action. Consciously cut back on the news and social media. Seriously, stop feeding the comparison machine. Seek out those daily moments of silence. And it doesn't have to be some complex hour-long meditation. Just a quiet, focused pause will do. Shift your mindset to one of abundance rather than scarcity, knowing that you are completely secure. And finally, give freely. Because when you aren't constantly chasing for yourself, you suddenly have the energy and the joy to give to others.
Kruk anchors all of this psychological and practical advice in a powerful biblical truth from the book of Philippians. It says, "But what things were gained to me, these I have counted loss for Christ, that I may gain Christ." This absolutely hits the nail on the head when it comes to the concept of blurring. All those worldly gains, all those shiny trophies of the rat race, they just become relevant. They're counted as loss when compared to the ultimate piece of gaining that single number one focus. So this leaves us with a really critical question to answer today. Will you let death be a terrifying end that forces you into an exhausting, lifelong chase for temporary things? Or will you let it be a beginning? Because by shifting your focus, blurring the noise of the world and reprioritizing what truly matters, you can strip away the anxiety of the daily grind and celebrate a profound, lasting peace right here, right now. Take these steps, take a hard look at your own priorities, and see what happens when you change your ultimate focus. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I absolutely can't wait to dive into our next topic with you.